I want to take you back a few years. It's 1995 and I'm travelling to Germany with my mum. On the autobahn ahead, I see a car I've never seen before. And as we approach in our Porsche 944, the unfamiliar shape drops down a couple of gears and disappears faster than anything I've ever seen. This memory is one of the earliest and most vivid I have of a car, and as a 10-year-old boy, I remember thinking that this was the coolest thing in the world. Fast forward 23 years and here I am behind the wheel of the very car that impressed me so much.
I want to say a huge thank you to a chap called Nick Smith for lending me his pride and joy, this rather lovely Fiat Coupe 20V Turbo Plus. Plus means that it's newer, you get a few extras.
These extras, like with the limited edition version, include a body kit, Brembo brake calipers at the front, push-button start, a strut brace and Recaro seats.
This is a car that I've been meaning to drive for years and years and years. I almost bought one about 12 years ago when I was still at university. Found out it was a Cat C write-off, which means that it was quite badly damaged and then repaired. So I decided against it. But I'm really sad because driving this, I should have just gone for the Cat C. The Fiat Coupe Turbo is flamboyant. It is an exciting car to drive. It lives up to my hopes and dreams. I want one badly. The power, it just feels like it wants to rip the Italian body a new one. Super fast in a straight line. It's not a car that you want to really whip through corners too much. It's a kind of slow in, fast out, use all the torque on the way out. These cars are fast appreciating. Prices for these now anywhere from £4,500 to £15,000. So you can tell that people have realised that these cars are future classics. They're not future classics, they are classics right now.
This wonderful engine produces 220 horsepower and 229 pounds-foot or 310 Newton-meters of torque, which launches the 20-valve turbo to 60 in 6.5 seconds ahead of its 155 mile-an-hour top speed. And yes, all that power is sent through the front wheels, but thanks to an LSD fitted as standard, torque steer isn't half as bad as people make out, especially on well-maintained cars like this one.
They sound amazing, they look great. I love everything about the looks. We've got a cut-off rear, we've got the massive slits in the side. It looks like Chris Bangle, the designer of this car. He was just drunk and he had a machete and he was like, oh, that'll do, and oh, let's have a couple more slits there. We've got Pininfarina designed interior. We've got this lovely body-coloured panel that runs all the way along the door, all the way along the dashboard. The only thing I don't like is this center console here, which is just like any other car, but who cares when the rest of the interior is this good.
That's it from me for a while. Let's see what Nick Smith has to say about his own experiences as owner.
I bought my first coupe in 2005 while I was still a student, so basically bought the fastest car I could for the cheapest amount of money. I've since had a 20-valve non-turbo and then 3 20-valve turbos. I've used each one of my coupes as my daily driver and it just does everything so well. It's quite at home on the motorway. I've been on 3 drives around Europe in my coupes. If you want to go on a track day, I've been around Spa twice, I've been around the Nürburgring, and then on a weekend, just pick any country roads and you'll struggle to have as much fun as you will in the coupe, really. Well, one of the most annoying quirks is in weather much like this. After periods of heavy rain, all the water, it pools on the roof. You open the door, you sit in it, and the water sheets off and covers your right leg. And then come winter time, the doors and the locks regularly freeze. The rear handbrake can also freeze on. Windscreen, the insides regularly fog up, and the wing mirrors as well are quite small, so visibility is quite poor in the winter, really.
It's one of those cars that you can pretty much drive in any gear because there is loads of torque, there's loads of power. As for the steering, well, I mean, let's be fair, this is an old car, it's nearly 20 years old, but you do feel the road underneath you, which is a nice thing. Unlike the Chrysler Crossfire, the 6-speed manual gearbox is all right. It's a super long throw here, so it kind of feels like you're doing that with a massive old stick.
So now that you've got a flavour of what the Fiat Coupe is like to live with and drive, here's some advice from one of the UK's top Fiat Coupe specialists, John Cartledge of Midlands Car Servicing. He's the guy who recommissioned this very coupe, so he knows what he's talking about. The first thing John tells me is that the Fiat Coupe is a car that people don't need to shy away from. What's more, the horror stories of high servicing and maintenance costs simply aren't true. In fact, John charges £190 for a full service on a 20-valve turbo and only £300 to do the timing belt, which is wildly off the near £1,000 mark that gets touted on the internet. As for the belief that the electrics on all coupes are crap, again, that's simply not true, but probably stems from the fact that other Fiats of the same era did suffer with electrical gremlins. As for rust, all post-1995 models were galvanized from factory, keeping it at bay for around 10 years. These days though, it's not uncommon to find rust on the boot floor, front inner wheel arches, sill edges and rear arch lips, so pay particular attention to these areas. In terms of how a good coupe should drive, John says the steering should feel tight and precise. Vague steering and torque steer could be a sign that the front wishbones and rear arms need swapping out. And looking at the hydraulic clutch, a firm pedal feel will indicate an aged pressure plate. Now let's talk about power and durability, because the 5-cylinder engine was way over-engineered for the power it produced from factory. In fact, 700 brake horsepower is achievable and reliable using 90% of the factory components. There are a few age-related things to be very wary of. Firstly, old auxiliary belts can cause complete engine failure due to it entering the timing area. To combat this, John has fabricated an auxiliary guard to make sure this doesn't happen. Then there's the hose of death at the rear of the engine that can rupture at any time, causing huge loss of coolant and inevitably engine failure. Oil cooler pipework can also burst due to corrosion, which will dump all 5 litres of oil in a matter of seconds. Looking at turbos, and John tells me that turbo smoke can be a sign of cracked pistons due to excessive boost. Then again, the smoke could also indicate a blown seal. If you hear ticking on idle or screeching on acceleration, this is likely down to the exhaust manifold. Early manifolds used to crack beyond repair, so the solution was to engineer a cut in between the branches which reduced the manifolds cracking, but due to the branches being unsupported, it then came loose after years of expansion and contraction, which brought on more unusual issues. With a good service history though, these cars are solid, reliable, rapidly appreciating in value, and above all, a hell of a lot of fun.
It's a car that you need to get to know, because if you don't really enjoy driving and you get into this, you'll be like, I don't get it. But for me, someone who loves driving, and for you guys as well, when you figure out all the quirks and you figure out how to work a car like this, then when you do get into that flow, there is nothing better, because getting this girl to sing is a really good feeling.
In the UK, Fiat Coupes came with 4 engine choices. A naturally aspirated 2-litre 4-cylinder 16-valve and 16-valve turbo from the Lancia Delta Integrale, with the naturally aspirated 2-litre 5-cylinder 20-valve and 20-valve turbo, another Lancia engine, joining the lineup less than 2 years later. Unfortunately for you guys in the US, the coupe never made it to your shores. However, with the 25-year import rule not a million miles away, it might be time to start thinking about importing a 20-valve turbo in the next few years. It's a car many Americans haven't even heard of, let alone seen in the flesh, so importing one would result in one of the most special and unique cars to grace American streets.
So the things that have gone wrong with my coupes have been quite minor, and a lot of them are to do with consumables. I've had to replace clutches, cam belts, brakes, fuel lines. My previous coupe, there were starting issues, and that was down to a cam sensor. The favourite things about the coupe are the looks. I just love the way that it just looks different to most things on the road, and just all the little design quirks that the car has really that really stand out. There's the lights, which apparently are based on Chris Bangle's wife's derriere, but I can't quote him on that. I also like the power of the coupe. The sound and the performance of the engine is just absolutely awesome. It's hard to explain until you've owned a coupe. They really do get under your skin, and it's just hard to get away from them really.
They're more reliable than people give them credit for. And the reason that I haven't bought one before this, and I'm sure loads of you guys, is because you thought 220 horsepower going through the front wheels in a Fiat, that can't be a good thing. But it is, it works. So please, if you're after something turbocharged, 2-litre engine, something exciting, then let the Fiat Coupe 20-valve turbo be it. The main attraction about this car is the engine. It is the noise, it's how it makes you feel. I love looking at it from the inside, I love looking at it from the outside, I love hearing it. I love knowing that people driving past look at it and think, what is that? Is that a baby Ferrari? Well, yes it is, sir, because we've got 5 cylinders, we've got a turbo.
And in its day, it was the fastest front-wheel drive production car on sale.
So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
So to my 10-year-old self, we did it, little man. We finally drove the nuts off a Fiat Coupe Turbo, and that memory of one pulling hard on the Autobahn has been made a reality. As for what I'd say to my 20-year-old self, you're sensible for not buying the one you looked at, but god damn it, I kinda wish you did.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Automotive Misfits featuring the amazing 20-valve Coupe Turbo. For more episodes, click here, and to subscribe to Car Throttle, click here. A fly just went in my ear.